Simon, you are one of my favorites. Love having you on. Let's get right to it. I got to tell you, it was a bore of a first half. That final LA and New England. The second half picked up after Zardes scored that goal. And we saw a different New England team that after they scored their goal, almost win it with Teal Bunbury, that shot that hit the crossbar. How did you see that game unfold in your eyes?
The way I saw it, Anthony, is a team in New England that missed a great opportunity. The LA Galaxy were not on their day. Robbie Keane was not on his day. Landon Donovan was surely not on his day in his last game as a professional. And it was there for the taking for the Revolution. I was surprised, Anthony, how few numbers they put up. They played scared, in my opinion. Jermaine Jones was stuck to the defensive midfield role. They got a goal, but then they did nothing else. And look, they were unlucky because they hit the bar. And I believe, by the way, they should have had a penalty early in the second half. And then moments later, the LA Galaxy get their first goal. But I thought it was there for the taking for New England. I think this is going to eat at them for the whole offseason because they were that close. To me, the LA Galaxy were not that much better than them.
No, I couldn't agree more, Simon. One guy that I think it's going to eat all winter long in his stomach is going to be Lee Nguyen. Here was a guy that was expected to have the game of his life before he walked off and he was injured. I thought he struggled. I thought he was nervous. He didn't look well. I thought Jermaine Jones was the star, the leader. At one point, I saw him get upset at Teal Bunbury because they were too close with one another, shouting to him to move ahead. And I think that's where Jermaine Jones is going to be a star in this league and on that team.
Look, I was in the stadium. Teal Bunbury had me tearing the little hair I have left. I have no hair, Anthony, and he had me tearing that out too. I mean, I'm telling you, Teal Bunbury, there were moments, there was a shot by Mullins where he needed to follow up and get in the box. So I don't blame Jermaine Jones on that. Lee Nguyen had a great moment. National stage, national TV, and he didn't impact the game. With Jurgen Klinsmann looking on, Jurgen Klinsmann was at the stadium, and he didn't show himself to me maybe the durable guy that you want on the international level. I mean, he ended up cramping up. That was the injury. And, you can't cramp up on your team and abandon them, before the end of the game. You just can't. You're their best player. You're the supposed MVP. So I agree with you. Big letdown with Lee Nguyen.
Bruce Arena, in my mind, is the greatest North American coach I will ever witness and watch on the sidelines. He's done it all. He's won it in different areas in his professional coaching career. Is there anything left? Why does he want to continue on in 2015, Simon?
I mean, if I'm him, I want a shot at the Club World Cup. Easy as that. I think the LA Galaxy, the mission is not complete until they win the Champions League. And so I think he continues until he gives it one last crack. I expect him to be back next year, and I think that's what he's waiting for. They're not going to be in the knockout rounds. Obviously, they have to wait till the group stage starts again. But I think he wants one more crack at it. And I wonder deep down if he relishes rebuilding the Galaxy a little bit now that Donovan is leaving. And there was an article today about Robbie Keane, and he's not sure what the future looks like after next year. So I think this is an LA Galaxy team that needs a couple of big stars. And Bruce Arena has shown that he's excellent with recruiting the big stars, getting them on the same page, and having them perform. And I think he'll want to rebuild this team and take a shot at Club World Cup before he ever leaves it.
Simon, you talk about rebuild. The rebuild on its course for the Red Bulls, a major task at hand. We know that Henry is gone. Cahill, I'm pretty sure, is not too far behind him, and it looks like they're going to go with a younger squad. I like this, but are the Red Bulls fans good with this?
You know what? I think the Red Bulls are always going to look at what's going to happen now across the way at New York City FC and what names they're going to bring in. And to a certain extent, I think the Red Bulls are going to have to compete with that moving forward. So, look, do the Red Bulls need to get younger? Absolutely. I mean, I think there are games where they just can't keep up with other more youthful teams that can pressure and that can play the physical game. And I think they got as far as they could with the more pass-oriented, we're going to pass through you kind of style. And I think they need a little bit of injection of youth. And I'd like to see them maybe go after international stars that perhaps are younger and perhaps contribute to that more dynamic, a more dynamic look. So I think they're going to ultimately going to be compared by what goes on at New York City FC. And New York City FC already off to a great start, and they have now the expansion draft to build on.
And I got to tell you, Simon, I think they need to change their style. They've had a little bit of an arrogance, the Red Bulls, ever since they entered the league. I've witnessed this and experienced it firsthand here in Toronto on a number of occasions, and I think they're going to have to change that in the community. I've talked to a lot of people and family in New York. They're expecting New York City FC to really be more of a family-oriented type of a club. Am I off base by saying that?
Well, if we're talking about New York City FC, I still have a hard time getting a read on what they're going to be. I think a lot of fans maybe are a little bit unsure what to expect. They're excited to have a team within the New York City limits, that's for sure. But I think the identity is slowly taking shape. It's not like Orlando. Orlando, to me, is much more of a reality in terms of the expansion teams because we've seen them play. We know the people behind the club. We know their players already. They already have a good roster. They have a good look. We know what to expect. We know the style they're going to play. New York City FC is still a work in progress. We know the coach, Jason Christ, but not sure what to expect. They're already making inroads in the community. Absolutely in the community. They're working with youth clubs. They're gaining a big presence in the city limits. But I still don't have a good read on them. I think it's going to take them coming together in January and being now a living and breathing squad for me to be able to tell. But they're already doing a lot of work. You're right about that.
Let's talk about Jason Christ, the expansion draft, doing a lot of work. I look at a couple guys that I'm pretty sure that he's going to scoop up come tomorrow at this time. Chris Wingert, a guy who he knows quite well. And to me, it would be shocking if he doesn't pick up a player like a Patrick Mullins, who we saw change the dynamics of that final game. University of Maryland standout, and a young kid, only his first year in the league. Your thoughts, Simon?
Yeah, I think there are many intriguing players, and you can go a couple ways with it. You can go the veteran route, and there are plenty of veterans, accomplished veterans, or you can go the young player route. And what New York City FC have said is that they plan on getting 6 to 7 starters that they're going to keep, and then the other 3 to 4 picks that they get, remember, teams only get 10 picks, they are going to use them as trade material. So, I look at a guy like you mentioned, Chris Wingert. Yes, it would be a nice story to have him go back home to New York, where he's from, and rejoin Jason Christ. But I look at a guy like Carlos Salcedo. He's a Mexican youth international, not getting a lot of time with Real Salt Lake, seemingly had a falling out with the GM. He's a young player, a young defender that I think can be a starter in MLS. So you mentioned Patrick Mullins. He's another young guy. I thought Philadelphia, there are 2 young guys with them that I think are very interesting. Leo Fernandez and Pedro Ribeiro, very talented guys that still haven't gotten a lot of playing time. So they're the young players, then they're the established ones. So if you're looking at defenders, there's a Pam Uruka who had success in Portland. Within fullbacks, you can look at a Corey Ash in Houston. Holding mids, a Davy Arnaud. I'd be surprised if a Davy Arnaud wasn't picked up with the culture he brings to a club. When it comes to wingers, you have to look at Ned Grabavoy, another possible Jason Christ guy. Jackson, you see him in Toronto. And so I think and in the forward department, there's plenty of veterans. Jairo Arieta, Alan Gordon, Connor Casey. So there's going to be it's going to be real fun to watch. And remember, just a couple of hours after the expansion draft, we get the waiver draft. So all the other guys who have been cut over the last few weeks and their options were declined, they become available to all the teams. So there's going to be a lot of activity today, and then the re-entry draft coming up on Friday as well. So it's an incredible week.
It's a Christmas time for us guys in the business covering MLS. Very quickly, Simon, a couple other things before we let you go. Let's talk about expansion possibly taking place sooner than later in MLS. To me, I would put Las Vegas at the top of the list, a close second Minnesota, and then a third San Antonio. Your thoughts?
Interesting, you didn't include Sacramento in that list, huh?
Yeah, I think that Sacramento lost out when they brought the Chivas team to the LA area.
In what way, though? Because I think Sacramento, I get a good vibe from what they're doing there, and I think that the stadium, the ownership group that they've now built with several heavy hitters. The city is on board. Kevin Johnson, the mayor, the ex-NBA player, has been very present in all their meetings. And there's just a good feel about them. Their brand is right, and it's hard to say that about a lot of teams. So that really has hit. So I think Sacramento could be another Orlando city. Las Vegas, it's an interesting city. But aside from that, I really don't have a good feel for them. And then Minnesota, I think I'd be shocked if Minnesota doesn't get a team soon, because number one, you have two ownership groups competing for this, and when you have that, that shows you that there's a huge interest. And there's a huge belief in both the fan support and the corporate support, and there are stadium solutions in Minnesota. So, and that to me has the capability of being a very vibrant market in the middle of America here, where there are not many teams in MLS. So, I like the Minnesota. I like Sacramento. I don't know what to make of Las Vegas yet, but that would be so much fun to have a team in Las Vegas. But soccer is a little bit unproven in that market, so it'd be interesting to see what their final pitch is actually like.
Simon, we'll close it out with the CBA. That is the hot topic. It's been the hot topic for the last number of days after the final was played. I have a lot of time for the players in this fight. I just can't see players the minimum wage of $40,000 living in New York City, in Toronto, in Montreal, in Vancouver or Seattle. You can't live on 40 grand. Something has to give. Something has to change. What are you hearing? What do you believe this time around will take place?
You know, this is what I believe. I think now they've worked together so much, both the owners and Major League Soccer and the players and their ownership group, that I think what you're going to see is two groups that will come together. There is you can sense it, that there is a good vibe, that there's a momentum around soccer in North America, and whether it's the TV ratings, which were up incredibly for MLS Cup, whether it's in the fan groups, and the playoffs have had unbelievable attendances. There's an uptick in interest in the media and everything, stadium development. I believe that the players and the league will get together and say, we got a good thing going here, and we're going to come up with a solution. I think it'll be a solution that I think, and like any deal, Anthony, it's going to be give and take on both sides. But I look that partnership will continue to be just that, a partnership. And the players are smart. I believe they know, they have a good sense where the league is at, and I think the league is going to be forthright with sharing that information. And ultimately, my hope is that a work stoppage is avoided, and I don't think anyone goes into it wanting a work stoppage. But I just have a good vibe that there's a good working relationship here, and I think it'll result in a deal I think that everyone's going to be happy with, and we'll take another step forward for both the league and the players to now look at the next phase of growth. And again, we're on the cusp of something special here, Anthony. You could really feel it in the air.
Simon, I want to take this opportunity to personally thank you for 2014 and all the times you've come on our show, taking time out of your busy schedule. I want to thank you for doing all you've done for us, and I want to wish you and your family the best of the holiday season, and let's hope that 2015 is exciting as 2014, and hopefully in Toronto, I could finally watch a playoff game, because that would be my Christmas wish.
No, best wishes to you too, Anthony, and your whole team there, and everything you do. I wish all the shows and all the talk shows were as educated about the game and knowledgeable as your show. It's always a pleasure to come on with you.